Once again, I want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today. My name is Elizabeth Ayisi, and I would like to hear your experiences as you have passed through high school to college, especially in your mathematics education. At any time of the interview, if you feel you don't want to continue anymore, please feel free and let me know. So let's just reflect back to when you were in college. When you transitioned from high school to college, did you transfer some credits in college from your high school?
Yes, I transferred one course credit. It was a communications course and AP government and politics course, AP course. So those are the college level courses that I took in high school that transferred to college.
Okay. Apart from the advanced placement, did you take any other courses, honors courses or CCP courses, College Plus credits?
Yes, I took honors courses throughout my high school, especially my junior and senior year when they became available to us to take.
Okay. Can you help me understand what your high school was like?
Yeah, so my high school would basically be described as a lower tiered high school. It was one high school in a large community. We had our graduating class was over 500 students, and it was very much marginalized in a way that you can tell the students who were nurtured and had resources thrived, and the ones that did not have as much resources didn't thrive, and also was left in the shadows often by teachers and just a staff. I remember very much so being two African American person of color in my classes, especially as I got into the higher level classes. So it was in a way very difficult and challenging, kind of pursuing that, going through that 4 years there, because there's not many students that look like you in the higher classes, and oftentimes the teachers would also kind of neglect your hand and not, really answer to your needs or anything like that, just because they didn't have much belief in you. I remember when I was applying to colleges, my guidance counselor was a lot of times downplaying the schools that I would apply to, and saying, this is a very reach school. Do you not just want to apply to state schools and stuff like that? Meanwhile, my GPA and my experiences were compatible with the schools that I was applying to. So West Haven High School was, if you want to do well, you have, as a person of color, you have to really push yourself to boundaries where you oftentimes don't want to be at. But if you just want to slack off and just kind of do high school minimum, the bare minimum, you can also do that, and you probably wouldn't have a support either way. So that's pretty much what West Haven High.
How big was the high school?
It was freshman to senior, very, very big. At one time, you could have over 1,000 students inside.
Okay.
Freshman year to seniors. So, my graduating class was 500, so probably 500 at each level as well.
Okay. Was your high school well funded?
No. They were trying to build a new high school for ages. Never happened. It was just actually last year they started building it. Then there were talks of rebuilding it since I was there in 2014, way before I was there. So very much underfunded. Very much the only high school that's in the community, in our town, and so it's just very much under-resourced.
What sort of curriculum did your high school have?
I would say the curriculum was pretty basic, just in terms of you go through your regular freshman year basic courses. As you advance, there were opportunities for honors and AP courses, but it was pretty much, the curriculum got you to where you needed to be. There were opportunities for career explorations other than college. So like there had auto mechanic stuff and like CNA programs. So it was a lot of like programs that if you did not, or if you feel like college is not for you, or you feel like you didn't do well in high school enough to go to college, stuff like that, there was preparatory programs for that too. But it was a pretty much a basic high school opportunities you get.
What about the kind of mathematics curriculum your high school had?
Yeah, again, pretty basic. Like freshman year was like the pre-algebra, all that stuff. And then once you get to upper level, I remember there was opportunities to take honors algebra, starting your junior year. And then you would go up to AP Calculus. And there's AP Calculus and AP Stats. Those are the two that were offered in the AP level. And honors algebra, honors trig, and then honors trig, honors algebra. And there's some other honors class junior year you could take, like honors math class. I forgot about it. Okay. But I ended up taking honors algebra. Honors geometry, that was the other one. I only ended up taking honors algebra in my junior year.
Okay. Can you tell me about your experiences of being in a track system as a Black student?
In a track system?
Yes, if you were ever in the track system, if your school they tracked students maybe from middle school all the way or from elementary.
No, they didn't really have anything like that. It was just like when you get into high school, you want to take the basic classes, and then your guidance counselor would recommend you for honors or AP classes I think ending of your sophomore year and entering your junior year. They would have to recommend you for those classes and based on your GPA and how you perform in classes. And after that, then you kind of go into those courses. In terms of like tracking your progress and making sure that's like you're doing what you need to do, that's really up to you and up to your standards. So.
Okay. What is your major or what did you major in college?
Biological sciences and education policy. Practice.
Okay. Can you share with me what led to this interest or why you chose to be in STEM?
Oh, why STEM? I think, I've always been interested in why things worked and why things were able to be the way they are. So I wanted to kind of explore that. And I think science gives you that kind of open-mindedness and open ability to kind of question, put your question into purpose and figure out why certain things are happening. And science it really explores the infinite nature of someone's mind and allows you to go into a room and kind of figure it out, like pick tools and strategies to figure out why this certain thing is working the way it's working. So that was always something that I was always interested in. And so I just kind of continued that path. And the classes that I was taking in high school, well, really starting middle school to ending my career in high school, really led me kind of pursue that career as well.
Okay. Tell me about yourself as a mathematics student.
Very poor. Math was always challenging for me. Like I was born and raised in Ghana. And so when I remember my first time coming here, just like looking at and converting the money, the currency was very, very difficult. I remember my mom was really like frustrated, like explaining like this is a nickel and it's worth 5 cents. And this is 5 cents. And you add 5 cents and 10 cents together, you get 15 cents, all that kind of stuff. It was just really, really difficult to me to comprehend that. And then moving upward to like middle school, like picking geometry was also very, very well. I think geometry was a little less stringent on me, only because I'm a very visual learner, and so with geometry I can actually like see certain things and see certain figures, and so that was a little easier. But coming like pre-calculus, pre-algebra, algebra, stats, those were very, very difficult for me. just to comprehend. And if I didn't have a good teacher or a good mentor in that class, I would easily not do well in any of the course at all. So that really, I realized how important like good mentorship and good teaching is in math, especially for someone who it doesn't come easy to. So I'm definitely someone who math does not come easy to.
Is mathematics part of your identity as a student or even as a learner?
Absolutely. Yes. As someone like in STEM, I think math, as much as I want to run away from it, it always comes right back. Especially I remember because I did in graduate school, I do research, and I had to kind of do the C1, V1, figuring out various types of measurements and how concentrations. And I'm like, this is something I learned in like high school. Now it's coming back to me. And like, if you don't have that foundation in math and understanding, just basic calculations, it really just builds up. And if you don't have that foundation, you crumble. And so I really really understood how it follows you through. I always try to run away from math, to be honest with you. But as I really got older into like understanding research and understanding how things work, it's like math is part of that foundation. And so I really actually begin to appreciate math and understanding it better.
Okay. Do you like to contribute in your mathematics class? And if you do, why is that? And if you don't, why not?
I do. I don't know. I feel smarter when I contribute to math. Like, I remember in stats, a lot of my friends, were wasting their hands and, getting the answers right. But I'm like, why don't I get frustrated. It's like, why don't I get it? And when I do get it, when I understand a certain topic, I really want to make sure that like the teacher knows that, because I don't want it to look like I'm like, slow or dumb or something like that. But I do really find it, if you can have a conversation in math, it's really, really cool to hear and also really cool to witness, because it's something like, I don't know, I see math as something that's very paper, like you just write on a piece of paper. It's not very discussional or conversational like some other fields of STEM. But like when we're in like, I remember my stats class, the professor really made it more real world applicable things. And I just remember like we having like conversations. So how can you go about using stats to figure out your business and stuff like that? And I'm just like, oh, okay, this is applicable. And the discussions that brought up on it was really, really cool. And I like being part of them. So for sure.
Help me understand how you perceive your learning of mathematics.
How I learn math. Wow. I think for me, I want to understand the foundation and where it comes from. Like, what is a root topic of this problem? I don't know, this problem that I'm trying to solve, and then what other mathematical tools can I use to actually solve the issue or solve the problem? Oftentimes, my biggest problem in math is just like how complicated and complex it really is. Like, there's multiple ways to solve the same problem. Mm-hmm. And now oftentimes that's really, really confusing for me, because you can use like this tool to fix this problem, but you can also use this tool and that tool. And then also, just like I said, like, there's a basic math foundation, but also like built up. And I remember being in chemistry class in college, and like you needed to use like geometry and something like that back in high school, or like business and physics, like having to use like geometry back in high school to solve the issue. And that kind of, as someone who doesn't really love math like that, it really like triggers some negative about me, because I'm like, well, now I need to go back like 70 steps trying to figure this out, and then come back and try to figure what the actual problem is. And so that got really, really frustrating and really, really annoying, because I'm like, well, it's going to take me 10 years to figure this problem out. So I think that's one of my biggest problems, like when like solving math or dealing with things in math, is just like having to gear up, combine years of math teaching into one problem. Yeah. and having gotten the problem wrong in the first place. And that's one of my I think one of my challenges in math, and how I come about the process of understanding all mathematical problems.
Okay. What opportunities were you introduced to in high school?
And just in general.
In general.
In high school, I think it's kind of hard because my high school specifically, not many programs were exposed to me. I had to kind of branch out to neighboring towns and neighboring cities to find opportunities. So I think my school specifically, really, West Haven High School, I can't even think about my school specifically opportunities they give me. Other than honors and AP courses, to be honest with you, not much. Not much. I really had to branch out. Like all my college resources, all my internships and everything like that was really because I branched out of other cities and other towns to get those opportunities.
Okay.
But otherwise, my high school didn't do much.
Okay. You mentioned of two opportunities, the AP and the honors. Were you comfortable with these opportunities?
Academically, yes. For my academic means, yes. I was like, okay, this is something I need to do to get to better prepare for college. So I'm grateful for the opportunity that my school gave me, and I am able to have those opportunities to take it. But yeah, those are really it.
Okay. Were there activities set aside after school that you were interested in?
It would just take the basic clubs and organizations. I started my own organization in high school, working with the United Nations Girl Up Foundation, educating people about the struggles of girls' education and of fundraising. We did a lot of fundraising for them, and that was that. But most after-school things I did in West Haven High School was either clubs and organizations or staying after school for math help. That was all I did for West Haven High after school. Otherwise, it was something I branched out of for other programs in other cities.
How did you get involved with these school activities?
So for the organization I started, I think it was just me being curious and was just learning about the issues the girls were facing, just trying to get an education. And I came across the foundation, the Girl Up Foundation, and I had a teacher who was teaching Women in History course, which is basically understanding the struggles that women face throughout history. And I approached her and I said, I really want to start our chapter of this organization in our school, and she helped me kind of start that up. And then other than that, it was just office hours for geometry, algebra, calculus, stat, all that school. So it was literally just me going office hours for that. That was the only reason those two reasons were the reason I was in the building after school.
I see. What activities do you think were missing?
In my school specifically?
Yes.
I think just career enrichment opportunities, like finding internships and filling out stuff for college. That was just not there. There's just no type of let's sit down and try to figure out an internship for you, or branch out of local businesses within the town to say, okay, we have a student that's really interested in business and entrepreneurship. Here's a local business in our town that can help you you can internship there and learn about this career. There was no that type of activities at all. And so I would really love to see activities organizations where you can go to for networking or learning how to pursue your career trajectory. And that oftentimes was hindered greatly by students of color and people in underrepresented communities, because we didn't have that at home. No, we didn't have that at school. And so, compared to our other students, where they might not get that from school, but they get it from home. Like their parents who are on top of their education and on top of and have that resources and opportunities and networking from their own circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so people like me who didn't have that from home or school, I had to kind of branch out and find those opportunities myself. Yeah.
What about the barriers that prevented you from accessing mathematics opportunities?
Mm-hmm. I would say the biggest barrier was just lack of understanding resources, like the resources, in terms of any online help or YouTube videos that maybe can be like a supplementary material for what the teacher taught in class today. I really didn't get exposure to that until college. I didn't know there was things on YouTube that could help you, or certain websites that can help you understand the teacher's lessons. And so I really wish that was that was exposed to me early on, because it really could have helped me understand certain materials better. And that was definitely a huge barrier in just all the STEM topics, all the STEM categories, just lack of understanding the resources that is available to me until much later on, unfortunately.
Tell me about the mathematics opportunities that helped you in your mathematics identity.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
So I want to know your mathematics opportunities that specifically helped you shape your mathematics identity.
I think the biggest opportunity was this one teacher who came. He was just there for that one academic year, because the original teacher was on leave.
Mm-hmm.
And he was African-American man who taught math, or I think he was an algebra teacher, but I think he taught every other math subject you can think about before he came to us. And I just remember connecting a lot to him and understanding him a lot more than all my other professors. And I did actually really well in that class, I think, because of the way he taught and the way that I can relate to. The way he presented material was just profound, and I was able to understand it. And actually, it was one time where math came easy to me, if I can say that. So I think that's really one of the biggest resources that really helped me kind of grow out of the if math is not, if I'm not good at math, I can never be good at math type of thing. But that's one experience where I realized, it's all about how the information is presented to me, and the willingness of the teacher to kind of explain it in multiple ways, and mold it and present it in ways that is easier to understand. And so that experience was a really great resource, because it really just showed me okay, it doesn't matter if you're not great at math. You don't have to be great at math to understand it. You just need better resources and better presentation of the material.
Yeah. What about the opportunities that helped you define your mathematics identity?
Define it.
Or you can think about it as how do you perceive your mathematics identity?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always had the notion that if I'm not good at this subject, I'm never going to be good at it, because it's math. Because it's just math. It's just the way it is. And so a lot of times when, like I said, a lot of it was just resources are thing in this path, and this linkage between okay, here's what the teacher taught, here's what you need to know, and here's what I know. Like, how can I link those things so that I can actually get the full picture of the topic? Those missing linkages to resources, like supplemental materials, practice questions, tutoring, mentoring, all that kind of stuff was all linked together, was all that missing linkage. And I didn't get that until college, where like when I went to college in my calculus class, if the professor didn't understand the professor, I would go to like supplemental material, things I found online, like YouTube videos, whatever, worksheets, whatever. If I didn't understand that, I would have tutoring. So that was really those kind of missing linkage between all those kind of factors what helped me kind of gravitate that, like, okay, you know what? Yes, I'm not a mathematician. I probably will never be a mathematician, but I can understand math enough to do well in a course, enough to kind of teach someone else about it, enough to write an exam about it and do well in the exam, enough to understand the world around me to write checks, to start a business, to whatever I have to do. So like, yes, I may not be able to write a whole thesis in math, but I can understand it because I have additional resources to help me navigate those difficult topics.
Okay. Describe a high point in your schooling, a time when you most were engaged and alive in your mathematics education.
Most definitely the algebra class with that professor, that teacher. Like, I kid you not, I thought math was the end of the road for me. But I don't know, he just made it so, like you said, alive. He made it make sense. He made it more relatable. I think the biggest thing he said was just like, he gave us a reason why we should care about math and why and where we're going to use it, so that, because oftentimes, you get into the mumbo jumble of working a problem out and it'd be a really long problem and you're like continuously working on it. You're like, why am I doing this? What is this? And I think he just put a pause and then I said, okay, this is why you need this. You need this right to, if you guys want to start a business, if you guys want to go to medical school, if you guys want to go to graduate school. And he put that realistic ideology in our heads that, like, yes, this is something you can actually use. And that really did help us understand and want to understand him better. I think that was a high point of my life in terms of my mathematics career. That point of like understanding why I could use this and where I can use this was just, it made the learning process much easier for me.
Okay. What helpful and or positive experience did you have in mathematics education growing up?
Positive experiences, you mean? Or
yeah, or helpful experience. Or if you can describe a successful experience that you've had in your mathematics education.
Yeah, it wasn't algebra, it was this pre-calculus class, and I failed the test, and I remember like being so sad about it because I studied really hard for the exam and I knew I knew the topic. So I came in, I didn't get the grade that I wanted, and I remember the professor just like, oh yeah, you can have another chance at it. Like, she would me retake it, the exam. And oftentimes for me, it's like, if I'm gonna retake it, like, I need to get a high, like I need to pass, I need to get an A. Otherwise, it's not meaningful for me. And I remember studying so hard just to get that A. And whenever I finally reached that goal of like, all right, I got an A, like, that's really exciting. Like, it finally paid off, like the studying math paid off. And so that was really a high point. And I'll never forget that moment when I saw that the exam, because I was like, I remember studying all night. It was something I've never spent much time in math as much as I did trying to get that A in that pre-calc class. So that was a good high point too.
Nice. And you did get that A.
I did.
So
as my old math.
As a Black student, how do you approach college mathematics?
I feel like it's something that only smart people would do or study, or things that, like, just looking at the department in my college, just remembering like the teachers and the students who were math majors, they were all either Caucasian or of Asian descent. And so I just remember it being something that like only those group of people would do or study or can even achieve that level of understanding, you know. And it never dawned on me that like, oh, it's something that also can be of interest to people who look like me. So I don't know. It was never an interest in my community. Okay, but people in my community, people, my friends. So it just also never dawned on me to see like mathematics, like people who look at me who were mathematics majors or people who were in the math realm.
Okay. So as a Black female, describe how you approach college mathematics.
I think the female, it was interesting because my pre-calculus teacher, she was a female. And at that time, she was the only female in the mathematics department. And I just remember, we were chatting about it because we were like, wow, like she's like a pioneer in that sense, where she's starting a movement type of thing. And I don't know, like although she was white, like it dawned on me that like in the whole STEM career, like the challenges she probably had to face to get to where she was probably great because, you know, she probably fought a lot of like misunderstandings and like people doubting her abilities and stuff like that. And so I could just imagine like adding additional layer of identity, which is being Black, could have just heightened the whole situation up. And so like I remember thinking like, you know, could she have done it? Or could she have been where she was if she was Black, like a Black woman? You know, because we didn't see like there was none, even majors or professors in that department that were of color. And so like I was probably thinking like, could this even be possible? Type of thing. If you don't like see it, you just don't think it's possible. So that's another discussion.
Describe how your previous mathematics experiences helped you adjust to your current education.
Yeah, a whole lot. So I was just I do research, so I didn't really think I would use math ever again in grad school, but it came back and haunted me for sure because, like, you know, doing concentration, like figuring out certain concentrations and pHs and everything like that, that all requires certain level of math understanding of certain mathematic topics to basically understand and get to your goal. Because if you don't have the correct like condition for an experiment, you won't be able to get your results. And so it really dawned on me how kind of my foundation in math was kind of broken a little bit and had lots of gaps because I really didn't feel like I needed it. You know, at that time where I was learning, I was like, I'm just learning to just learn and pass the exam and pass the class. But now that I'm actually in real life doing research and doing all these kind of things, I'm like, oh, I actually need, you know, this foundation topics of just like, and it's just like basic, like figuring out certain concentrations and making sure like doing certain buffers and things like that. And but I'm just like, this foundation that's needed is something I learned like years ago. It's something I should have mastered years ago. But because the resources weren't available to me or I didn't really see the meaning of why I was learning it years ago, it's now haunting me back as a result of that. And so I definitely do see the implementation of math in my career right now and how that kind of trajectory really really set stone for right now.
Mm-hmm. Describe the helpful and or positive experiences that you've had as a Black student enrolled in college mathematics.
I think one positive was my calculus teacher, the fully female one. She just was very lively and willing to teach, and willing to, again, very similar to my algebra teacher back in high school. The way in which she would mold certain topics was very profound, because she would mold it in a way that you could understand it. And if you can't understand in one figure, she would mold it again and try to figure out how you could understand it better. And she used various tools. And that's another thing too, like in math, I'm always thinking of like just a blackboard and chalk, just like professor's writing and you write on your note. But she presented information in various ways and strategies that as a visual learner, it was so helpful in understanding what she was talking about. And I think her willingness to teach various different types of ways, because she has various different types of students in her class. Oftentimes, I feel like professors teach one way, and they teach you in a way that for the majority, and oftentimes the majority are white Asian students who come from, already educated backgrounds, and they have students like me in the back corner who, need the extra info and extra help to kind of get that lesson. And what she did was provide me that space, or that resource to allow me to fully understand, what the lesson was. I think that was a very profound moment in my whole entire trajectory. I think those two professors, my one algebra in high school and then calculus teacher in college, they instilled in me that math is capable. Like I'm capable of understanding math and using it as well. Yeah.
Describe your experiences in college mathematics.
So in college, I took 2 math classes. That was the calculus class and the stats class. And the calculus class was a female, and the math class, the stats class was the male. They're both of non people of color, and they both had very different teaching styles. So the calculus ones was more like she would office hours, so whenever you need, email me whenever you need. I will mold it into any shape or form that you to understand it. I don't want you to just kind of pass the class. I want you to understand it. I want you to use it. I want you to see the purpose of it. Mm-hmm. The stats one was more like, I'm going to stand in front of the class, teach you, and give you a bunch of worksheets. You're going to take the exam. If you fail, if you get a B, whatever. He didn't show the careness and the tenderness to understanding of his students. One thing I would give him is that he did mold the information, or presented information that was useful to real world. So those were like 2 vastly different teaching styles, like vastly different professors. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the more profound things I learned just by taking those 2 courses was just that, like, I'm capable of math regardless of, I'm capable of understanding math regardless of who is teaching it. Mm-hmm. I just need to figure out the resources that's best for me. And it helps to have a professor that gives you the support, like the calculus teacher, but it's not a necessary factor in my success.
Tell me what it means to be a STEM major.
I think it's the willingness to understand your curiosity, and the willingness to want to explore your curiosity as well, and figure out the tools that you need to answer the questions that you have. And STEM, so it's growing now. Like, we're including math, we're including like various different other subjects other than like biology and chemistry and physics. So I think, being a STEM major, you really have the opportunities to like answer the questions you want to answer and have like the resources to do so, because you're learning the resources that you can answer as you explore in your career. So that I really just love that about STEM, being a STEM major and being a STEM, being within the STEM community, because we have the space to talk about nerdy stuff, if people would call it nerdy. But just that kind of curiosity and be willingness to have the space to be curious, and then learn the tools that you will use to answer those curious questions that you have. I think that's the beauty of being a STEM major or being in the STEM community.
Tell me about your experiences as a Black STEM major in a predominantly white institution.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I came from a school where very under-resourced. The STEM community, like the science courses we took, very much like, for example, we were the AP biology. I mean, it's in AP's class is supposed to be more intimate, but we had like 30 plus kids in the AP class, and so the gaps in knowledge you're supposed to learn in the AP course, the better your initial exposure to it in college. I was missing it a lot. And so it was very, very difficult for me to catch up to those of my other students, because the other students in my classes, because I knew I had to go back and learn almost a semester worth of information, just come back and learn this semester's worth of information. And I didn't really, like, I blamed it on myself a lot, like the beginning of my college career, but then I realized that, like, I'm not the same as them, in the sense that, like, my background, my educational background, and just my community background is not the same as them. They know certain things and certain resources and what works for them that I have yet to discover and have yet to learn. And that's okay. I will learn it, and I will get to where I want to be. And I will set my own goals for my own self and not compare it to my other counterparts, because we're just not on the same level. Doesn't mean I can't get to that level, but it would just take me a little time to get to that level, because there's gaps in my resources and all that kind of stuff. And so I think also in the STEM community, there's a lot of competition and less collaborativeness. And that's something that I feel like I came from a community where, we help each other out. Like, being raised in, Ghana, and being raised in the household I'm raised in, like, it's all community. Like, there's no, look down on somebody. You're taught to, like, help your neighbor out. And so the competitiveness that I saw in undergrad, being a STEM major, like, it really disgusts me, because I'm like, we're all trying to better the world. We're all trying to find the next cure for cancer, or find a better way for, patients to have less recovery time and stuff like that. Like, we're all trying to get to the same goal of helping the greater community, helping the world. So why are we being so competitive in that sense and not working together to reach that goal faster? And so that was really, really, disheartening for me. And then on top of that, a lot of the professors that I had in college didn't understand my background and didn't know how to teach someone like me. I remember freshman year, there's a sequence of classes you take as a pre-health major and stuff and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I remember the freshman year class, I could count the number of people of color in my class. There was about 8 people that were people of color who were like STEM majors, pre-health, whatever they were in the STEM community. And I remember the last course that we had to take in our senior year, there were one other student in that class. Mm. And we were both in the back of the classroom, And I remember she put a Facebook post actually after graduate school that she diverged into a PhD in education because she wanted to change that kind of, the gaps, to fill in the gaps between education for people that look like her, students of color. And so it was really disheartening every time I hear someone move themselves from the STEM community or STEM major, or they wanted to do medicine. Now they can't do medicine, or they don't want to do medicine because they lack the resources, they lack the support. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, well, how do we begin to initiate the change that we need to do so that we can stop having people fall off the pipelines? And, as much as we want to have pipeline programs, as much as we want to have funding, all that stuff, we can't do that if we don't look at what's happening on the local level, what's happening inside the institution itself. And so, like, just that experience of, like, competitiveness and just, like, lack of resources and just not the lack of knowing and the lack of, like, just putting so much pressure on myself to try to get up to the level of my classmates when, I need to give myself time and space to do that, was just all encompassing, just making my path as a Black woman in STEM so much more difficult. But even if it takes me 5 extra years to get to where I want to be, I'm going to do it because I know that there's people behind me who are going to look at me and say, if she can do it, I can do it. Even though I didn't have that, I want to be that for someone else. Because there's always that domino effect that needs to happen. We always need to go back and look at the people we're leaving behind. And so just that those experiences combined just makes it a lot more difficult to be a Black STEM major in a PWI. But I think it's also that experience that keeps me going, that gives me that fire to say, you know what, I don't have the same resume as them, but I can reach there. And it's just that strength. It gives me strength to continue on.
All right. Can you describe some mathematical skills that you lacked when you entered college?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I didn't take. I initially was going to take freshman year, my first semester. I was going to take pre-calculus, and there was a pre-calculus assessment that you need to take before you enroll in that class. Mm-hmm. And I remember taking the assessment. I knew nothing, nothing. I could not pass the test. I knew nothing, and I was like, well, how am I supposed to get into this class that I need to take to be a pre-med or whatever when I can't even take the pre-assessment for this class? And so that was the initial, like, wow, I'm missing a lot and I don't know a lot. And I remember spending, this is bad, but like the first month of before I entered college, just going, doing crash courses and trying to catch up to what I need to do to at least fulfill those gaps before I got into college. And I remember my first semester I took chemistry, or general chemistry, and a lot of general chemistry is math, and that was also hindered my ability to understand some of the topics in that course as well. And I just realized oh crap, I'm really missing a lot of the foundational math courses and math topics and math tools that I need to be successful in STEM, because it's all one. It's as much as we want to categorize them as being, engineering, math, biology, chemistry, they're all stemming from the same thing. They're all this, mix of the same topics. And so, if you lack one area in math, then you're going to lack one area in chemistry and physics and stuff like that. So the lack of preparedness really hindered me a lot, especially my first 2 years of college.
What were some of your coping strategies for your success in college?
I think my faith was definitely one thing. I believe in a higher power, and that really I had to keep, that was one of the major things that kept me going. I think the other thing was just, like I mentioned, I know there's students in my community. There are people in my community that are rooting for me and are waiting for my success to happen. And I needed to do it for them. And I need to prove to them that, like, it's very much doable. You can come from, hard background. You can come from communities that are not nourished enough and still succeed. It will take hard work. It will take hard determination. It will take focus, but you are capable of it. And I think that was another coping mechanism, if you will. A constant reminder to keep going. Every time for spring break or Christmas vacation, you go home, you're still in that neighborhood. And so it just kind of continuously gives you motivation to keep going.
Tell me about your mathematics transition from high school to college.
High school to college. Transition was definitely rough. It was a very rough transition. It was a very harsh wake-up call that I was missing a lot of topics that I didn't know in my curriculum, in the math curriculum. I think one of the biggest examples is definitely the chemistry course that I took freshman year, Chemistry 1. Like, I had to really go back and, like, I remember using YouTube videos to understand, I forgot the quad, it was some algebra topic, quadmetry or something like that. And, like, I need to understand that to answer certain questions in chemistry class, like root squares and, like, trying to understand, even in biology, like the pedigree and everything like that. And I'm like, this is all math. This is all coming back to me. And so that transition into understanding, like, the importance of what I learned in high school is going to come back to understanding it in a chemistry way, in a different mold, in different lights. That was very, very difficult. Because, you learn certain things in like algebra class in an algebra way, and it was just algebra. It was just that. But now you're taking that same topic and transitioning into chemistry. Mm-hmm. That was, like, rough. I could not pinpoint those two. And it took me a long time, because not only did I not fully understand it in algebra, I now have to, like, transition it back to chemistry. That was another challenge. Mm-hmm. So I had to go back and understand it in algebra way. Okay, now I understand the topic. Now come back and understand it in, like, chemical ways. And so that was difficult, very much difficult.
How useful were the mathematical skills you learned throughout your mathematics education?
How useful was it, like, now for me?
Yes.
Very, very much so. Like, in lab, you have to, like, I basically had to create my own experiments, and the way that I had to do that was using, like, finding different concentrations and create different buffers, and you have to use, like, logarithm and like various types of different strategies in math terms. I was using the calculator. I was literally Googling how to do concentrations and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was another harsh wake-up call, to be honest with you. Like, transitioning from college to graduate school, that was another thing where, like, the math hindered my abilities to fully push on to my undergraduate education. Because now I had to kind of go backwards and say, okay, I know I did this in chemistry freshman year, but now it's gone again. I have to refresh my mind again. But it's just not chemistry now. It's actually implementing the chemistry in my lab. And so that was another pinpoint of, like, well, another harsh wake-up call for me too. But yeah, I mean, it's forever lingering within my education.
Can you talk to me about the people outside of your school experiences who contributed to your mathematics identity or to your mathematics success?
I think my mom was probably one of the biggest factors. Like, she taught me currency when I first moved into, like, the United States. and just like she's better at math than probably anyone in this house. So she probably was a person that like enjoyed math and actually understood the purpose behind it, and kind of was aiding. She aided me as much as possible when I had trouble in like algebra or like in high school and stuff like that. So she's probably another person that like influenced my math identity, I would say.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm curious about your experiences outside of school that contributed to your mathematics identity.
Outside of school. I think adulting in general. Like, oh yeah, I mean, well, I think graduate school, so we had a stipend for living and everything like that in graduate school. And I just remember having to budget and plan out, like, how can I spread this amount of money into everything that I need to do. And it was just a lot of like, I had my first like credit card and had to understand interest and what that meant into, like, if you're giving me a loan and you're going to take a percentage of it, like, what does that mean? All that kind of stuff. And like the loans that I had to pay for undergraduate, like all the interest and all that kind of stuff was just like, oh, this is math yet again. And so it was like, dang, like this is something I wish I paid attention to when we were studying it. But I also remember at that moment also my algebra teacher who made it more realistic in understanding, just math in general and certain math topics. And it really actually helped me understand how I can be a better, financially more stable if I understood like those topics in math. So yeah, I think that was another reason where math came back and helped me once again.
Can you help me understand the ways you perceive your academic success as a high-achieving Black college student, or as a high-achieving Black graduate student?
Yeah, how I perceive my success. Really good question. Wow. I think for me, like I said, it's really when my community feels proud of like my accomplishments. That's when that kind of it makes it brings all my hard work into reality. That like someone is influencing someone. It means something to someone that I decided to go to college or I decided to go to graduate school. That like it puts meaning behind what I'm doing every day. Like when you go into lab, you go in and out of lab, you're doing the same thing, doing the same experiment 20 times, it's not working. But like once you finally graduate and you see like the community coming together for your graduation and sending you all this, we're proud of you and all that kind of stuff, that it puts meaning into all the hard work that I've done, all the ins and outs and everyday things and troubles and tribulations that I've had. It's like a purpose for me to keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope I answered the question.
You did. The next question I have for you, I'm just curious if you can tell me about what you perceive to be your academic barriers as a high-achieving Black graduate student.
I think the gaps in my resources, just the things that like I didn't know. And I think it was a quote by Maya Angelou that really hit me. Like, you can't be, I'm paraphrasing it, but you can't be angry at the things that you didn't know because you didn't know it for a reason. Now you know it, but you can't be angry at yourself for not knowing them before. And that's one of the barriers of it too. One, just the lack of resources and networking and mentorship that you can get from your community that will really influence your career trajectory. Because I didn't really get proper mentorship until my graduate school, and at that point I'm like, wow, can my life really be so much clearer? Well, at least my career trajectory be so much clearer if I had this mentorship back in like middle school, or even high school. And two was just like, again, not putting down myself because I didn't know certain things or certain resources or certain networking strategies or skills that, like, again, most people who are in this space of high achieving space come from privileged backgrounds that I didn't come to. But, I'm here, and I did that because I needed to demonstrate to others that look like me, that come from me, in the same background as me, that it's very much capable. And we need to also set our own stories in these kind of spaces. And so I think those two, things were definitely barriers that I think I sometimes use up those barriers as strengths to kind of keep going and pushing, because, I realize they could be barriers for others, and I don't want it to be barriers for others as well. So definitely mentorship is definitely core for me.
As a high achieving student, what helpful and or positive experiences did you have in college?
College is tough. I don't think it was necessarily a moment, but I think it was just more of a relationship that helped me get to where I am. It was a relationship between me and one of my biology professors, who was head of the department, Craig Woodard. He understood the barriers that students of color faced when coming into his classroom. Especially I had him at a time where it was the Obama administration transitioning into office, and he understood. Well, sorry, not the Obama administration was coming out of office, and Trump was coming into the office, and like the moment that he won, actually. And I remember going into this class, and he was like, you know what, we're going to take a moment of just silence to understand the magnitude of what just happened, because we're all just in shock of what just happened. And I think, his understanding of, like, the issues that are presented outside of his classroom influence students like us, was really profound for me. He took the moment to understand it. He took the moment to say, okay, you know what, these students, and he didn't like pinpoint us out of the classroom or something like that, but he understood that we were facing these challenges. And he made sure that, like, if we're coming to him and saying we need an extra day to just complete this assignment, he would easily and willingnessly give it to us. I remember, like, I was having just family issues and everything like that during one of his classes, and it was a midterm. And I remember, like, I was like, I didn't really study much for it. And I was like, I just need to pass, get a D, C, whatever it is, just pass. And I remember getting 78 or something like that. And I was like, all right, thank goodness, I passed. I'm out of that. Then you go focus back on, like, the family issue or whatever. This guy emailed me. He's like, Kaussar, I see a 76 and 78. I know it's passing, but I know what you were capable of. And that just made me bawl out crying, because, like, he knew, like, that wasn't my performance rate, and that, there's something wrong. He's like, you know what, come back when you're ready to take the exam. And I ended up getting an A in that exam. But he's like, yeah, this is you. And I think that was, like, a moment where it's like I realized what mentorship, the importance of mentorship, and what it meant to have a good mentor in your career, and how that really can change the trajectory of where you are and where you need to go, and how you can get to where you want to go. I'm really, he was part of the relationship. Was really just a profound moment in my, at least, career in college.
That's very great. This is my last question, and I want to know the kind of advice that you would give to an incoming first-year Black college student in STEM education. What would be your advice?
My number one, two advices I always give them. One, find a mentorship, find a mentor, and find a mentor that understands you and respects your story and respects you as a person, as a human that's trying to get to the next level in their education. And two, find your study method that works best for you. Take the semester, take the first month of college, the first semester of first year of college, understanding what works for you. Try different methods, because the method that you use to understand in high school is not the same method that you're going to use in college. This is a whole different ball game here. What you're learning in 1 year of high school, you're going to learn in one semester of college. So you're going to have to learn things at a faster pace, at a faster, just understanding things at a faster rate. And sometimes you're not given the space to understand it, at your pace that you used to learn. You used to understand it in high school. And so find the study methods that work for you, and don't be afraid to change those methods as you progress into your college career. And so find a good mentorship, find a good mentor, and then find the best study skill to help you.
Okay. Do you currently have a mentor in your program?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I have multiple. Sometimes it's got to be overwhelming. Like, what do I do with you? But I think another factor is that, like, you kind of brought it up, but just like how to use a mentor and what that means, and like building the strong connection between you and your mentor, that's another challenge. Like, you can have all the mentors you want in the world, but sometimes you also have to kind of build a relationship. It's like a stronger relationship between a mentor to easily ask them for guidance, or like, it's a 50-50 kind of relationship. And so I definitely have mentors now that have made the graduate school process and transitioning into, like, hopefully medical school soon, much, much easier.
Thank you very much, Kaussar.